The Authors Forum exists to inspire success. We will talk with authors and others in the publishing industry to bring you essentials and advice. Dr. Veronica Esagui is your host for Authors Forum.
Welcome to the Authors Forum. I'm your host, Dr. Veronica Esagui, chiropractic physician in West Linn, Oregon, and the author of the Scoliosis Self-Help Resource Book and Veronica's Diary sequels, The Journey of Innocence, Braving a New World, and Awakening the Woman Within. My guest today is Trinette Weber, a historical writer of From Shaniko to Pearl Harbor, which is a 12-year-old eyewitness account of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Trinette, welcome to the Authors Forum.
Well, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Trinette. And I would like to ask you, how did you feel when you first received a personal invitation to be a guest speaker and as an author at Pearl Harbor's anniversary?
Well, I was a little bit surprised and, of course, very pleased. My daughter and I wanted to go over there, and we were hoping maybe we could have a little table and sell some books for the gift shop there at Pearl Harbor, and it worked out fine. We had a great time.
Have you done that many times?
To Hawaii?
Yeah.
Yes, I was fortunate that my husband used to get free trips through his business, so we went quite a few times. And I did get to see where he had lived one of the first times that we went, and we met quite a few interesting people in Hawaii that lived there that he had known in the past. But of course, by now, I don't know where all those people are.
Right.
Right.
Writing such an important historical book about the United States, how did you come with the idea, which would have been perfect, to get in touch with those that at the Pearl Harbor? How did they find out about your book?
Well, after I had it printed and I thought it came out so nice, I did it more for family and friends, but it came out so good. I tried sending a book to the gift shop, and lo and behold, they
realized.
They sent me an order for a couple dozen books, and I was, of course, thrilled. And they have reordered many times since.
How many books have you sold, more or less, at Pearl Harbor?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure how many sold there. Overall, I have sold around 1,000 to 1,200 books.
That's incredible. See, this is the thing about us, those that are watching this show, as to how to promote your book. In your case, you know, it was historical and it had to do with Pearl Harbor, so you connected with Pearl Harbor. And that is one of the things when authors write a book, is to find out who is interested in reading the book.
Right.
Okay? And this is a piece of history, and it's very, very, it's like going back in time, and we'll go a little bit more on that.
Right.
What was it that inspired you to write the book? Because you were not there when it happened, correct?
Well, that's correct. I remember when it happened. I lived in San Francisco at the time, and we were frightened, thinking if the Japanese got through with Hawaii, San Francisco might be their next target, you know. So we were a little unnerved about that, but of course nothing like that happened. And I don't know, I just always he wanted to write his story, and he never got to it.
Your husband?
My husband, yeah. He wanted to write about it. He knew some other children had written stories about their experience at Pearl Harbor. And because he actually saw all of the bombing, because he was right there at the base, he was a little more, knew a little more about it than some of them. And he said he would like to write his story. He never got that done, so just kind of after he passed away, I decided to do it for him. I couldn't do anything else for him anymore, you know.
This book cover is absolutely incredible. When I saw it, it's like it's hot. And I'm not talking about hot, I'm talking about heat hot. It's almost like you can feel the fire as you look at the. Who is the picture of these two young people here?
This is my husband, and that's his father.
His father, okay.
And so that was taken probably about 2 years before Pearl Harbor.
Okay. And what's Shaniko? Where is Shaniko? What is Shaniko?
Shaniko is, now it's a bit of a ghost town, really. There isn't much there. It's down near Madras, Oregon.
Oh, in Oregon, okay.
Uh-huh. And it was a sheep herding locale. And that's the place that my father-in-law ran away to. He ran away when he was 15 and became a cowboy down there in Shaniko. And I don't know how he chose that place to go, but he loved horses. And he knew there were ranches down there, although I guess many of the ranches were sheep ranches rather than horse ranches. But that's where he chose to run to, and he was successful. His father found him there and decided he was doing okay. In this day and age, I don't think anybody would let their 15-year-old boy stay away from home, but they did let him. And then he went from there to join the Navy, and that's how he ended up in the Navy.
So did your husband actually see the bombing, or was he just on the island when it happened?
No, he saw it all. He was standing on the submarine base, which was, you know, right adjacent to it, and he saw the planes coming, and he thought they were pretending, you know, he thought they were practicing. And then when he saw the Arizona blow up, he was pretty shocked and thought, how could they blow up a battleship just to practice, you know? But then his dad came running off the base, and his dad said, this isn't practice, we're under attack. And Bob said, well, how could the British attack us? Aren't those British planes? And he said, no, those are Japanese planes.
Let me ask you a question. You brought some pieces of, like, what is that?
Oh, that's a part of a kind of a bomb thing. I've seen it in a magazine about Pearl Harbor, that was some of the bombing stuff.
Where was it found?
It was found in my husband's home. After the bombing and everything, they got to go back and retrieve a few things from their home.
And
they
some
never
of the
got to live
bullets?
there again. Those are Japanese bullets. You can see Japanese writing on them.
That's
And he picked those things up from the floor of his home and stuck them in his pocket. Just
And what is that?
And that's part of the one of those little Japanese submarines. There was, I think, about 5 Japanese submarines that were trying to penetrate the harbor. And after the war, or after the bombing and everything, they pulled one of them out of the water, and those were some pieces off of it.
I understand you brought these license plates.
That's right.
And Hawaii 1941.
Right.
Can you tell just a little bit of the history behind that?
Yeah, well, that's the car. It was on the car that they took when they escaped. They were down there on the base, and they were seeing all this bombing. And so they got in the car and drove up into the hills to the sugar plantation, and that was the license plate on the car that they drove. It was a Model A.
It's in pretty good shape, 1941.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think he was really hit by anything.
Yeah, no, the car did not get hit. We saw pictures, you know, of other cars that had been strafed and the occupants killed and everything, but they got away safely. And then my father-in-law took the car and went back down to the base to help as best he could.
Right.
And he spent 3 days retrieving bodies out of the water and saving what could be saved, but most of them were already gone. And of course the family didn't know if he was still alive or not, so that was a scary 3 days for them.
Wow. Who is your target audience for the books?
Well, I think the people that enjoy the book the most are either World War II buffs or elderly people that remember Pearl Harbor. I did run into, I was down there at Pioneer Courthouse Square with you, you know, when we were signing books, and a little boy about 10 years old spotted the sign that told what it was, and he was so thrilled. His folks bought him the book, and he was just ecstatic. It was so cute, because he is really into World War II some way.
And he saw the picture of your husband as a child, so he probably communicated with that.
That's probably true,
contact,
too.
Right?
Yes. My favorite story about the book, in a way, was apparently a family had a teenage son who saw the book laying on their coffee table, and he picked it up, and he took it in his room, and he read the whole book, and he had never read a book before, a whole book before. So I maybe made a reader out of him, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was really proud of that.
Yeah. Well, how long did the family live in Hawaii before the bombing?
Well, they had lived there the 12 years. Bob was 6 months old, I think, when they, either 3 or 6 months old, when they took him over there, and they lived there all of that time, from the time he was born until.
So is the story actually the story of your father-in-law, as seen by his son Bob, your husband?
Yes, that's more what it is, yeah.
And your father-in-law, Oscar, that's Oscar, right?
That's Oscar.
From reading your book, he's a bit of a character, it would seem. Can you share with us one of his stories?
Well, I'm not sure which kind of a story you want. He was a character. There were quite a few people who did not care for him. They thought he was a little rough. He could not talk without swearing, but he used to try to not swear around the children and everything, but he wasn't very good at it. He was better at swearing.
Yeah.
But he was a good, decent, honest man. And one of his stories that is a little raucous maybe is when they were in Turkey, when he was in World War I. He and his friends wanted to smuggle some liquor aboard the ship, which they weren't supposed to do. And so there was a habit at that time that if your house caught fire, you could yell "Young'un var" or something that sounds like that. And the different people would come running and bid on the job of putting out the fire. So while they were doing that, it would just burn. So
It was burning while they were bidding?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was not a fire department. There was a bunch of fire departments that would bid for the job while the house burned. And so they, a few of them went on board without anything and yelled "Young'un var," and in the confusion that followed that, the ship parked next to them squirted water all over the boat, and everything was so confused, and the guys could sneak aboard with their liquor. And he was part of that. I don't know if he was the instigator or not, but he might have been.
Yeah. One of the things I loved about your book, Shaniko to Pearl Harbor, was the honesty that you put into the book. It seemed to be like it was easy to read, and you could almost get into like, oh, we are part of the whole thing, you know? You are there. You are there, and you were very good at bringing that up when you wrote the book.
Thank you.
It was awesome, really nice. How long was Oscar in the Navy? I mean, he went.
He was in overall 40 years, counting some reserve time. He was in through World War I. That's when he joined during World War I, and then he got out after they moved to Hawaii. He got out and was out for a few years, but in 1940, he got pulled back in. The government apparently realized things in the world weren't going so good and they maybe should have some extra men. So he got pulled back in 1940, and that's why he was working on the base the night before the bombing. So the family went down then to pick him up the next morning and take him home, and that's how they all happened to be there and see the whole thing.
He must have been kind of like a John Wayne of the war. I mean, here's some of the medals. That's a lot of medals for one person, but you probably even have more maybe than these, right? Or these are the ones?
I don't know. I think those
that's
are the
a lot
only
of
ones I
medals
have.
in there.
Yeah.
So he must have been quite a character. I love reading your book, and he's got the spice. He's got the spice of the wild, crazy American warrior, kind of John Wayne person, right?
Right.
But when did you meet Bob, Oscar's son?